Welcome back to the Friday 13th YouTube channel, Metalheads. Today I've got a fantastic interview for you. I've just recently interviewed Ben Jackson from Crimson Glory. Now, some of you may know I interviewed the band for the very first issue of Friday 13th, which was released in 1988 as a fanzine. So it's great to catch up with Ben once again, as the band have just released a new single, and they're also going to release a second single very soon. I'm just hoping the band will do a new album and a tour with the success of this new single, which is absolutely phenomenal. So I want to thank Ben for doing this interview and taking his time out. This is part one. Part two will follow later on after this interview. So thanks for watching, Metalheads. Be safe. Please share on social media sites and please leave comments. This is a brilliant interview. Thanks for watching and all the best to you, Ben and Crimson Glory. Thanks for watching, Metalheads. So, greetings everybody, to everybody on Facebook and YouTube. We're talking to Ben Jackson from Crimson Glory. Welcome to Friday 13th, Ben. I hope you've had a good day today.
Thank you, Jason. Yeah, I've had a good day. I'm just
We've
looking
finally
forward.
we've finally got this going because last week we had some technical issues, as we know.
Yeah, we did.
So
So we're ready to rock now.
we certainly are. So I mean, you probably might remember, or you may not remember. I interviewed you for the first time back. I think it was 1988, or was it 1989 at Nottingham Rock City on the Transcendence tour.
Yeah, I do. I remember.
I tried to interview you backstage. I was interviewing you all backstage, and I tried to take a photo with you guys, but you wouldn't let me because you didn't have your masks on.
Really.
It was like we're not taking no photos because we've got no mask on.
First tour, our manager was like, you guys can't be seen without the mask at all, even when you're not on stage, even when we're just going around the streets during the day or doing interviews. He wanted us to wear them all the time. We were really kind of taking the whole mask thing to the extremes, like not really giving photos without them and stuff like that. It kind of loosened up after that the next year or two for the second album.
Yeah, because we I met you the day after. You had a day off in Nottingham, and we met in the castle. You were walking around the castle.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Awesome cat.
what did you think of that tour? Because Slammer from England was supporting you, which were more of a thrash band. What was it like for you playing with those guys?
It was fun. They were funny guys. They were, from what I remember, they were very hilarious young guys. Um, I remember like the last night of the tour. This is funny. We were playing our set and the guys in Slammer all came out and they had sleeping bags and they unrolled them and laid them on the stage and got in them and laid down and pretended like they were going to sleep, like right on the stage while we were playing. And we're looking at each other like, what are they doing? And it was just I guess something they did because it was the last night of the tour and they wanted to pull a prank on us,
It's
you
kind of
know.
weird that you mentioned that because I was sleeping on the street after the concert because we couldn't get back home on the train. So me and my friend just slept rough for the night.
Did you know those guys?
Yeah,
Were they
I
from,
know. They've reformed recently. Apparently, they're back together.
yeah. So you're from that town? Is that where you're from?
I'm not from Bradford. I'm from Hull, which is like an hour and a half away.
Yeah.
But yeah, they've reformed recently. But yeah, that was a fantastic tour. I remember it very, very well. I actually think I sent you a recording of the concert. Did I send you it in a Dropbox message about a long time ago?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I sent you. It sounded really good quality as well. I think I sent you the interview as well.
Oh, I'll have to check.
Yeah, if you haven't got it, let me know, Ben, and I'll send you it in an email.
Okay, I'd like to see it because I'm not really sure if I got that or saw it or not,
Right,
to be
okay.
honest.
Okay then, Ben. So I'm going to ask you, as a guitar player growing up, was the guitar your first instrument, or did you learn to play something else? Or was there anybody in your family that was musicians?
Yeah, my father was a piano player and he was really good. He played a lot of the jazz style stuff and every night in the evenings when he'd get home from work, he'd be playing the piano and I would really enjoy listening to him play and he was just he'd get into it. He'd get over there and mix a drink after work and sit over there and have a cigarette and have his cocktail on the piano and just be rocking that thing for like hours and he was really good. So that was the music in the house was my dad. I still have his baby grand piano actually. He's passed away now, but I have it. Um, the other question you asked, my first instrument wasn't guitar. Actually, I wanted to play drums. When I was a little kid, I was very interested in the drums, and that's what I wanted to do. And um, My parents got me some drum lessons when I was around 10 years old. For a couple years, I was taking lessons and really wanted to play. And I don't know, I think because it was they couldn't afford to get me a whole drum set. They just bought me like a bass drum for one birthday. The next year they got me a snare drum. The next birthday, I think they got me a hi-hat. And I said, at this rate, I'm never going to get a whole drum set, so I might as well give up the drums. So when I was 13, I decided I wanted to play guitar and started playing guitar.
So, what was your first guitar? Do you still own it, or do you regret getting rid of it? Was it a shit one or a good guitar for for your age?
It was pretty cool at the time. It was a friend of my dad's had it, and I he found out I was interested in learning to play guitar, and he gave me this guitar. It was a Greco hollow body kind of electric, you know, kind of looked like a Gibson ES 335 stylish guitar, something like that, but it was made by Greco, and it was actually a 12 string guitar, but I just put six strings on it and played it that way.
Oh, interesting.
It was like, cherry sunburst, big old hollow body electric guitar. And I was a little kid, so it probably looked huge in my hands. That was my first guitar, and I learned how to play, you know, Head Nugent, Stranglehold, and stuff like that. Those were some of the first riffs I learned and figured out how to play, and got me rolling.
I bet your first guitar, but the first song you learnt to play, because I was playing guitar as a young child, was "Smoke on the Water." That must have been your first one, because it's probably one of the easiest ones to learn.
Yeah, yeah, I think I was probably messing with that from day one. Smoke on the Water and Iron Man, because Iron Man was kind of easy, and I was playing that. But kind of got into the guitar from when I was 13 because I was just really crazy about Led Zeppelin and Bad Company when I was about that age, 13. I Those were my two favorite bands, and
All right.
I wanted to play guitar like those guys.
And I was going to ask you the next question is what guitarist inspired you? Who's your besides Jimmy Page and
Jimmy Page, Mick Ralph, some Bad Company. Um, had Nugent when I was a teenager. I liked him a lot. Uh, I liked Peter Frampton. A lot of those guys that from the '70s when I was, I got into rock as a real young teenager, 12, 13 years old. I was just really into rock records and all that cool '70s stuff that was out is what I liked.
yeah, can you remember your first record? Because I can't remember my first record, but I can remember my first concert. What was your first concert?
My first concert actually was Peter Frampton, and it was 1976. He was on the Frampton Comes Alive tour and came through Florida, and Gary Wright was the opening band. Remember Gary Wright?
I'm not sure.
He had that song Dreamweaver.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So, so a friend of mine, we were both 13, and his sister was a little older, maybe 17, and she took us to see Peter Frampton, and I was blown away. I was like, this is awesome because I had the album. It was like a huge album in America that year. Everybody had Frampton Comes Alive. Everybody liked the album, and it was really huge on the radio. And he came through town, and I got to go to see the show, and I was like, wow, I loved it. I was hooked on that.
I mean, for me, my first concert was Blackfoot, the age of 10 on the Marauder tour.
Awesome.
That was an interesting gig with Samson supporting.
Very cool.
That's my
I,
very first.
I saw Blackfoot too when I was pretty young. They were great. Good
Yeah,
live band.
brilliant lineup they had as well. The original lineup back then, they were absolutely fantastic. So, Ben, I'm going to ask you a little bit about your first band, where I believe Crimson Glory was called Pierced Arrow, and then you changed your name to Beowulf. Was that the first two bands you had going, or was there somebody else before that?
No, that was pretty much it. You got the history. Dana and I both started playing together when we were 15, the Crimson Glory drummer.
Yeah.
And first band we formed, put together was called Pierced Arrow. I remember it was the other guitar player in the band, Bernardo Hernandez. He came up with the name. Like, why don't we call it Pure Stereo? So we did. And that was our first band. We used to play like, people's garage parties and stuff like that. Sometimes before we even had a singer, it was just uh, a few of us playing guitars and just we could go out and play just music. We didn't even have a singer.
Yeah,
So
I know
that
you got Tony Wise, didn't you? Was the first singer, I believe.
Tony Wise, yeah, was our first singer of Pure Stereo.
So
And then
what was the music like compared to Beowulf? Because they were heading more, I guess I believe that they were heading more towards the Crimson Glory style. I know Beowulf are still together, aren't they? I believe they're still doing something.
actually, I mean, it was still the same. It was Dana and I
Yeah.
and with Pure Stereo. And actually, in those early days of Pure Stereo, our guitar player was Bernardo Hernandez, and he knew Jeff Lords, who plays with us now in Crimson. Jeff even came in and jammed with us for a while when we were Pure Stereo in the real early days when we were like young guys. He came in and jammed a couple times, but didn't end up joining the band, whatever. But so I go pretty far back with Jeff too. Dana and I knew him when we were very young, and now we're the three guys kind of keeping the band alive. Pretty cool.
So
Um,
how would you call did Pierce Harrott actually do any demos or Beowulf? Did you actually record anything?
no, we were young, man. We didn't do any original songs. We did nothing but just play cover songs. We would play everything from Alice Cooper to Van Halen to Ozzy, or not Ozzy. Ozzy didn't even have any solo albums out yet. We would do, Black Sabbath, like Sweet Leaf. We would do old stuff and Aerosmith, just anything we would do that we liked. We did Blackfoot.
Sorry,
So that's what,
the song went then, John. Ben, the song went then. What did you say the last little bit?
yeah, when we were young, Pierce Darrow, we were pretty young and we were doing like old stuff, cover stuff that was popular around that time. And then when we turned it into Beowulf was more in the 80s when we changed the name to Beowulf. And actually that at that point John Drenning came into the band, after a while. And we had another singer named Mark Worms. And by then we were starting to do a lot of stuff like Iron Maiden and Accept and stuff like that. We were getting into more of like the 80s metal stuff. So Pierce Darrow was more like we'd play classic rock and covers. Beowulf, we started playing more 80s style like metal. But then after we did Beowulf for a couple years and we were playing a lot of a wide variety of really cool songs we were doing, we finally looked at each other one day and just said, "Hey, let's turn this into an original band. Let's not play covers anymore. Let's just write originals and go all original. Not even just mix the two. Let's just drop the cover thing completely." We just made that decision. If we're gonna, and we were pretty young guys still at that time, still maybe 18, 19. And a lot of our friends were just playing in cover bands in the bars and they were having fun playing the bars. And we decided, forget that. We don't want to play the bars. We just want to write songs and see if we can make a name for ourselves as an original band. So we did at that point start demoing a few songs when we were called Beowulf. After we got some songs recorded, when one day we decided to change the name again, and we changed it to Crimson Glory.
Right. So when did Midnight come in the band? Was he in and towards the back end of Beowulf, or did he come in when it was called Crimson Glory?
I think he did come in maybe right near the end. Well, maybe we were still called Beowulf. I think we were looking for another singer, and we're talking to him, but we never did any like local gigs or anything with Midnight and that name Beowulf. I know that, you know. So he might have came in. I think he was in before we made the name change. Yeah,
Right.
because I
Okay.
remember the night we were all talking about changing the name. Yeah, Midnight was there, so he must have joined while it was still called Beowulf.
Okay, then. So we're going to move on and talk about the classic first album, the self-titled album. That must have been a highly successful album for you because it's a cult classic, just like Transcendence is. I mean, what good memories do you remember of that for that album? Because I know you toured with Metal Church and Anthrax back in the day, and you took a lot of shit from a lot of the fans because they didn't accept you on that tour. You took a lot of shit, didn't you, if I remember rightly, especially in London?
Yeah, that's funny. We did. Um, because we were over there, it was our first tour, right on the first album, and we were opening for Anthrax and Celtic Frost, if you call it that, or if you say
Yeah, yeah, Celtic Frost. Yeah,
Celtic Frost, and that was the lineup on the tour was Anthrax, Celtic Frost, and Crimson Glory, and
Metal
Crimson and
Church. I think it was Metal Church. Didn't it? Metal Church did the London gig.
Metal Church played with us at the Hammersmith
Yeah, that's right.
instead of Celtic Frost, but that was the only gig that Metal Church played with Anthrax and Crimson was that one.
Right.
At the Hammersmith Odeon. All the other gigs on the tour, it was kind of like a 3 or 4 week long tour around Europe, and it was just Anthrax and Celtic Frost and Crimson Glory.
Well, you were the latest band on the bill, so you took a lot of shit, didn't you?
Yeah, because the Anthrax fans, kind of were really into the thrash metal, and they really didn't know what to make of us, because we were a little different, a little more theatrical, or and they
Hmm.
were like looking at us. I don't know if they really liked the masks or even the style of the music that much. Some of the Anthrax fans, I'm not saying they hated us, but they didn't really know what to make of us on that first time we toured over in Europe. We had to win people over, but I think we were. I think after every show, we had a handful of people leaving that went, wow, they were great. Who were they, But we had a few people that just didn't like us because we weren't thrash enough, maybe.
So, what songs from that album are your favourites and why?
Um, wow. From the first album, I gotta always say Azrael. It just seems like a great song that one of our most powerful. We've always played it every time we've ever played live over the years in any lineup. Certain songs aren't included in the set, but that one always is. We wrote that song when we were quite young, and it's just a real strong song. Love Azrael. I like that Valhalla a lot. Um, I don't know. Queen of the Masquerade, very, very fun. We've always played that one. You know, uh, Maybe the lesser favorites for me might be like Mayday. I don't know.
Really? That's a good song, though.
Yeah, it's a good song, but sometimes we would play that on tour, sometimes we wouldn't. It just depended on if we felt like it. Um, Angels of War is a cool song, but sometimes we would do it, sometimes we wouldn't. Heart of Steel, we never played that song live ever on any tour, if I can remember. We just,
Are you gonna play it on the forthcoming tour? Because you're doing some gigs out here shortly, aren't you?
yeah, we are. No, we won't. We're not doing Heart of Steel. Just some. That's just one of them songs we just never did live for some reason. I don't know if it was a vocal thing, maybe too much for Midnight to bite off. I guess after he did it, sang it the way he sang it in the studio, it'd be kind of hard to do it live.
Right. Did it sell well for you then, that debut album, Ben?
Did it sell well?
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. I mean, I wasn't really a guy that was always getting good accountings of the numbers of what was selling. So, um, I don't know. I don't know if it sold well or not.
Okay, then so I'm going to move on and talk about the second album, Transcendence. So just tell me a little bit about that album. How successful was it for you for that? Because you signed with the MCA Records for that album as well, didn't you?
Yeah, yeah. It definitely took us a little bit to a higher level, Transcendence. When we put that one out, we were striving to make a bigger, stronger statement with that record. When we were writing and recording, we were really trying to go, you know, bigger, badder, higher, and I think we did a little bit. Um, and then when the record came out, we were on Roadrunner in Europe and Road Racer in America. And Road Racer was already sort of conjoined with MCA a little bit. and MCA ended up just taking the record over for America and put it out just on the MCA label for a little while. So for me, that was kind of cool because I mean that was a major label and the label that carried some of my favorite bands when I was a kid, like Leonard Skinner and The Who, and all these bands were on MCA. So I was like, wow, okay, we're on MCA Records. And it was kind of short lived though. We got kind of dropped by the label, you know, within a year of the time they signed us, I think.
Would you have got dropped if you'd have still been on Road Racer?
Mm, no, no, I don't think so.
It's just a bad move on that on Road Racer's behalf for taking you over to MCA.
Yeah, I mean, there's a funny story behind everything, I guess. I know when we were on the Transcendence tour, we were touring all around North America, uh, played up in Canada, went to Mexico, but one of the gigs we did was in LA at I think the Roxy. Yeah, at the Roxy in LA. And some of the guys from MCA came out to the show to see us. And this was probably one of the worst shows we did the entire Transcendence tour. I don't know, everything that could have went wrong that night just didn't go well with technical things, and John's guitar rig was cutting out and wasn't even working for the majority of the set. He was over there trying to get it to work. Midnight was having an extremely bad night. All the execs from MCA were there to see the band that they just signed. And after the show, shortly after the show, we were no longer on MCA. So
That
that
sucks, man.
probably has a lot to do with that one show, to be honest. But just one of them rock and roll stories, you know.
So, what songs on that album are your favourites? Do you have any favourites from that album?
Transcendence,
Yeah,
yeah, for sure. Mask of the Red Death is one of my favorites as far as the heavier tracks. Lady of Winter, dig that a lot. Um, as far as the more like moodier tracks, of course, I like Painted Skies and Burning Bridges a lot. Really great songs. You know, Red Sharks is cool, always very fun to play live.
yeah.
We've never we always do that one. It's always a highlight, you know. In
Okay.
Dark Places, Dark Places is one of my faves. It's really cool. So I mean, that's one of them great albums where every track is good, you know.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, absolutely agree with you on that, Ben. So, I mean, after that, you left the band, didn't you? And you did you Parish, which we're going to talk about in a minute. I mean, what did you think of the Stranger Beautiful album?
Well, when I heard it the first time, you know, I was shortly just out of the band, and then within a year they came out with that album, and I was kind of maybe a little disgruntled that I wasn't in the band anymore, so maybe I was pre-programmed to not like it. But
Okay.
to be honest with you, I liked it. I listened to it. I'm like, okay, I like it because I like a lot of classic rock and stuff of all different styles. And I like metal, but it's not the only thing I like. I like all kinds of stuff, you know, everything from Rod Stewart and whatever. And when I heard that album, it was a little more Zeppelin-y, a little more mainstream, not so metal. So for me, as a fan of music, I kind of liked it. I'm like, this is kind of cool. But as a member of Crimson Glory, I was a little pissed off about it because I felt like how dare they drastically change the style like that.
I agree. Yeah, I didn't like it when I first did. I was like, what are they doing?
Yeah, so that's honestly how I felt. I kind of liked it and saw some of the songs were catchy and enjoyable to listen to, but I'm like, what are they doing? How could they change the style of the band that drastically? You know, and I knew that the fans were not gonna eat it up and they didn't, you know, kind of the same with MCA. Like they got signed to Atlantic Records for Strange and Beautiful. They put out the album with less than a year's time. They were dropped from Atlantic, and the album ended up in the cutout bins and all the record stores because the album wasn't selling good at all.
So why did you leave the band for those people that don't know? What was the reason for you leaving?
I left the band because John wanted me out of the band. He wanted to be the only guitar player, and you know he sort of put that move in motion and put that idea in the other guys' heads, like Jeff's and Midnight's, that, let's just do this as a four piece. I can do all the guitars myself. And I don't think it was that he thought I was a bad guitar player or the guy that he didn't like, or he just, I'm just being honest. After the first two albums, he got a real kind of a big head about himself, and he just wanted to kind of take over and do it himself. He just wanted to write all the tunes, play all the guitar parts. He just kind of wanted to be the only guitar player. He was, watching bands like Ozzy and some of these bands that just had one guitar player, and all the fuss that was made over them. He just wanted to be that guy, I think, for an album, you know.
So that's where the magic left the band, because two guitarists, you and him, were like a unit, obviously.
Didn't leave the band because I wanted to. I left the
Yeah.
band. I was sensing that's what he wanted, and it was kind of like a move they were pushing for to push me out. And then they also pushed Dana out at the same time because they knew that we started the band together. We were kind of like, one wasn't going to probably stay if the other didn't, because Dana and I were very tight with each other. And they knew if they put me out, Dana may just leave anyway. So they kind of just pushed us both out. And
Right.
and then they decided to hire a guy that was Dana's drum tech on the whole Transcendence tour,
Yeah. Jarvis,
because
Jarvie. Yeah.
Ravi, and Ravi is a really good drummer, and they would watch him every day on the Transcendence tour. He would set up Dana's drums in the afternoon and get them all ready and set them up. And then after they'd be set up, Robbie would tear up the drums for a little while and play everything and do all his tricks. And John and Jeff were watching him going, wow, we should get this guy. I don't know. They just probably weren't really thinking right at the time, you know.
Mm.
And John wanted to change the style to a more commercial style and see if he could even elevate the status of the band higher. Can you let this guy know? I can't call me. I got it's covered. Sorry, Jason. I'm
That's
over
it.
here where I run a business, and somebody just rolled up on me, so I had to tell him to come back.
Fuck off, sort of thing. So, I mean, after you did that, then Ben, was it Parish? Was your next the thing you did?
Yeah, yeah. Dana and I actually. So we took our leave from Crimson Glory, and it was pretty friendly. I mean, nobody was mad or really hating each other or anything. But as I said, just to be honest, we didn't leave because we wanted to do something different. We left because they wanted to do something different.
Yeah.
And they wanted to drastically change the style of the band, and they wanted to switch it to a one guitar lineup. So they did. And Dana and I wanted to continue playing music that was a little more similar to what we were doing on the Transcendence, kind of progressive metal with two guitar players doing a lot of harmony stuff and melodic stuff. And so we formed Parish.
It's a great album. It's a fantastic album. It does remind me of Crimson Glory, but it also reminds me of a band from New York called Hitman.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of
Cool.
got them two bands mixed together. And I thought it was that singer who sings on the albums is Jackson, is his name or something? Jensen or something. What a fantastic singer that guy was.
Oh, from Parish?
Yeah, absolutely fantastic singer.
Oh, nice of you to say. Next time I talk to him, I'll tell him you said that.
Please do. What's he doing? Because he's a fantastic singer.
He hasn't been singing in a while. I think he does graphic design work, and he's just living a quiet life. But he's a super cool guy. His name's John David,
That's the
actually.
one. Yeah, brilliant singer.
Yeah, he was really good for the band. And as well, the other guitar player, his name was David Edward. And Dana and I, when we were out of Crimson, we were looking for some other people to maybe start a new band with. The first guy we found was that guitar player, Dave, and he was really good. Him and I hit it right off, and he was very, enthusiastic about wanting to write with me. He didn't want to write all the songs he wanted to write, but he wanted me to write. He wanted to play solos, but he wanted me to play solos too. And he was really a cool guy, a really good writer. And Dana and I and him really hit it off and pretty much wrote all the music for that album, and the three of us. And then we later met, we had a couple different singers in the band. We had a guy, Tracy Parrish, in the band for a while, and he didn't stay. He ended up moving on to something else. And then we got John David, and they both probably wrote for the album. Tracy Parrish and John David wrote, lyrical content for the record.
So who came up
And
with the name? Who came up with the name?
um, honestly, we were calling the band a couple different things at first. We thought about calling it Sahara at one point. Somebody else maybe already had the name. I
Yeah, I
don't know.
think there's one in California. I think it was a female band.
This was in the early 90s, so I don't know. We were trying to come up with a name. And odd story is Tracy Parrish joined our band and he was in the band for a while. And Dana, the drummer, goes, "Why don't we just call the band Parrish? You know, it's Tracy's last name." So we're like, okay, we decided we would do that because at the time there was a couple bands out in the early 90s, like Slaughter, named after the singer, Winger,
Yeah.
named after the singer. Well, we'll call the band Parrish. So we changed the name or we decided to call the band Parrish. Shortly after, Tracy quits the band, and we just, for one odd reason or another, decided to still just call the band Parrish. And his name was spelled with two R's, Parrish, and we just took one of the R's out and just still called it Parrish, but with a different spelling. So the reason we named the band Parrish is because it was our singer's last name.
I mean, that album is absolutely fantastic. There's not one bad song on the album. And I believe, correctly, if I'm wrong, the album was released on Long Island Records.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, that one album, you should have done more than one album. I just like it really pisses me off when a band does a really good debut album and they break up. It's like, what? What the fuck?
believe me, I didn't want to break up. It was also out on Alpha Records in Japan.
Yeah.
Um, and it got really good reviews. Everybody said it was really good. Some people said they heard, more Crimson Glory style in it than they heard on Strange and Beautiful.
I agree with that. I do. I totally agree. It should have been Crimson Glory's next album if you'd have been in the band.
Yeah, and like I say, Dana and I never really wanted to leave Crimson Glory. We wanted to stay and continue making records that were sort of in that Transcendence style.
Yeah.
But John sort of wanted to try some different things. But again, I'm not trying to fault him terribly for this. This is water under the bridge. I mean, we were young and he wanted to try things. So this is just the way things went. I mean, I don't harbor any bad feelings about any of that. It's just, it's life. It's the way it was. It's the way things turned out. But I ended up rejoining the band later anyway in 1999, and John and I again shared many good times. So, but I kind of agree. The Parish album sounded more like a continuation of Crimson Glory's first two than that third Crimson did. You
Absolutely.
know,
Absolutely. So, did you have any favorite songs from that Parish album?
and we weren't really trying that hard to sound like Crimson. I think maybe that a lot of that was just Dana and I, and just kind of where we come from.
I think it's your guitar sound as well. You turn on your guitar.
Probably so. Maybe I have just something about me is sort of where some of that Crimson sound comes from. Of course,
There are certain guitarists that have a distinct sound. You're one of them, like Andy Rock from King Diamond, and certain people you hear that guitar and you go, Crimson Glory, King Diamond.
yeah. Well, that makes me feel nice because a lot of people are saying when they hear this new song we just put out that it really sounds like Crimson Glory. And as you know, John's not part of it this time around, so I'm happy that we were able to create something, and I was, with my riffs that people say, yes, it sounds like Crimson Glory. That's a nice validation.
Yeah, I mean that's the Parish album got reissued with a different cover, the one behind me, and also another one. But you also put a live DVD with it, didn't you?
Yeah, when it got re-released, there was a DVD in the package of one of our
I'd
little.
love to see it.
Yeah, you haven't seen it?
Nope, no, I've got the original CD, which is really hard to get hold of now on Long Island Records. So it's quite hard to find that one with the DVD. But it's got like demo songs on it as well, hasn't it?
Yeah, there's a couple demo songs on the CD, and And even the live DVD, I think we're playing songs at that show that weren't on the album, like a couple extra originals that never one ever really heard.
Did you actually get any songs wrote for the second album?
Yeah, we did. We had maybe four or five cool songs written for a second album for Parish. But you know, after the album came out, I think the singer was just expecting more to happen, like we were going to become big and it was things were just going to fly, and it doesn't always work that way in the
No.
music. Jason, sometimes, it's a hard road. You go through years where things are very difficult and not a lot's happening. And then there's other seasons where you're just, flourishing. It's not always easy, doing music and putting out records and the different climates of people's tastes and what people like at a certain time. When we put out that album in 1995, maybe that wasn't even so in style with what was really popular in music at the time. But we were getting good reviews on the album, but we weren't getting a lot of opportunities to play out or tour or really further the band to a higher level. Things were kind of moving slow, and the singer just didn't stick it out. I think within, under a year of the time the record came out, he said he was going to quit the band and go back to school and go back to college and study graphic design. And he just wanted to bow out of the music business altogether. He said he found it to be unsatisfying, and he quit. He never came back, never sang again. So
I'm surprised you didn't get another singer.
yeah, maybe we should have, but um it seemed like Dana and I put a few really hard years into that band, maybe from 93 to 95, and the record came out, and then the singer left, and then, we were all kind of, what are we going to do now? And just I, I think within a year of that time, I was just kind of feeling very deflated that I put so much energy into that band and that album, and the singer left. And I said, I don't really want to do that again. Hire a new singer, put all this energy into it, and just to have him yank the rug out from under it, and then we're screwed. So I felt like I'm going to write a solo album and I'm just going to sing the songs myself,
Yeah,
you know.
you actually sent me that CD many years ago, if you remember.
So shortly after that Parish singer left, which is probably 96 or early 97, I started writing songs for a solo album and putting together songs for the year 97, 98. I was writing my own songs, kind of just doing my own thing and having fun and recording some of these songs. And around 1999, 99, John and Jeff called me and asked me to rejoin the band Crimson, because they were just putting out the Astronomica album and they wanted me to rejoin and tour with them. And so that's why we didn't keep Parish going.